RFK Jr. has been sworn in as the next Secretary of HHS, and Mitch McConnell is not handling it very well. Linda McMahon attended her confirmation hearing today for Department of Education, and let's just say the Democrats aren't handling that well either. And Letitia James has responded to Pam Bondi's lawsuit. We're going to get to all this in this video, but let's take a look at RFK being sworn in.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
The duties of the office.
The duties of the office.
On which I am about to enter.
On which I'm about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Secretary.
So I'm happy to see that this has finally come full circle. This is exactly what America needs, a shakeup at HHS. Of course, Democrats, they can't handle this. We already know that. But before we get to them, Mitch McConnell, the only Republican who's been voting no on all of Trump's nominees, of course, he voted no here again. And here's what he had to say on why.
There was one very significant defection here in the United States Senate. That was Republican Mitch McConnell, the former GOP leader, someone who just put out a scathing statement about RFK Jr.'s views about the issue of vaccine. I'm going to read you part of it, Pamela. He said that he noted that he's a childhood survivor of polio, and he talked about how vaccines have saved millions of lives around the world. He said that he will not condone the relitigation of proven cures, and neither will millions of Americans. He goes on to say that referring to Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a record of trafficking in dangerous conspiracy theories and eroding trust in public health institutions does not entitle Mr. Kennedy to lead these important efforts, referring to efforts to try to treat illnesses and disease. He goes on to talk about the efforts to try to deliver on vaccines. He says Mr. Kennedy failed to prove he is the best possible person to lead America's largest health agency.
All right. Well, my message to Mitch McConnell is, number one, you should have retired 20 years ago. And I'm going to keep saying it over and over until he does it. Number two, the reason why people don't trust what Big Pharma has to say or our health industry, particularly HHS, is because there's a lack of transparency. When parents want to ask questions, they get shut down. And that leads me to number three. Just because RFK has criticized vaccines, that doesn't mean he's responsible for why people don't trust vaccines. The reason why people don't trust them is because of COVID. The mandates where service members were kicked out of the military. They wanted us to vaccine children, even toddlers who clearly don't need it. But if we were to say those words, we were censored. So it's the government and their handling when it came to vaccines and even the food that's been killing our country. They don't want to be transparent about any of it because they know they're making money off all of this. Now, of course, President Trump has been speaking to the media all morning long, and he definitely responded to Mitch McConnell. Here's what he said.
We saw Robert F. Kennedy Jr. get confirmed. He's going to come in here and be sworn in. Mitch McConnell has now voted against several of your nominees. He voted against RFK Jr. as the next health secretary, citing conspiracy theories. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I feel sorry for Mitch. And I was one of the people that he wanted to go to the end and he wanted to stay leader. He's not equipped mentally. He wasn't equipped 10 years ago mentally, in my opinion. He'd let the Republican Party go to hell. If I didn't come along, the Republican Party wouldn't even exist right now. Mitch McConnell never really had it. He had an ability to raise money because of his position as leader, which anybody could do. You could do it even, and that's saying a lot. But the fact is that he raised money and he gave a lot of money to senators. And so he had a little loyalty based on the fact that as leader, you could raise a lot of money. Senators would call me and they say, he wants to give me 20, 25 million. Can I take it? I'd say, take the money, take the money. But he engendered a certain amount of, I don't even call it loyalty. He, was able to get votes.
Now, let me provide you an example of why HHS has been on the wrong track for quite some time. And more recently that we all can relate to is this entire illegal migrant crisis in our country. This just came out today. This is reported by the New York Post. HHS splurged more than $22 billion on grants for migrants, including cash for cars, home loans, and startups. Now, just think about that. You're an American citizen. You pay your taxes. You work hard. Some people can barely make ends meet, but you're not getting any grants from this $22 billion. And we know there's only maybe 400 million people that are in this country if we're factoring in illegal aliens. but they can offer $22 billion just for them. Yeah. So once again, that's another example why they're out of touch. They're off message. What is coming out of their mouth does not resonate with majority of Americans. Now, RFK did answer some questions after being sworn in, and there's one that I think warrants your attention, and that is, what is his reaction or message to Democrats who tried so hard to prevent this from happening as far as him being confirmed as the next Secretary of HHS?
Has promised to be the president for all Americans, and he has.
Mr. Kennedy, Kara Kashinova from Lindell TV. What's your message to Democrats in the Senate that fought so hard to keep you from taking this position? And congratulations, by the way.
President Trump has promised to be the president for all Americans, and he has said to me that he understands that there's no such thing as Republican children or Democratic children. All of our children need to be protected, and whether you're in a blue state or red state, I'm going to do everything I can to work with you, whether you're Democrat or Republican, restore child's health in this country.
Mr. Secretary.
And of course, that's not what Democrats are focused on, right? They're focused on the dangers that RFK Jr. will bring to this country. They believe he's going to kill our children, that our country will become sicker. And as long as they keep running with that message, it's not something that truly aligns with the majority of Americans, which are just worried about the safety, the health of their children, the health of themselves. We have a crisis, clearly. And they don't trust what the government is saying about health in general, especially Big Pharma. But again, instead of focusing on those issues, they're focused on this.
Senator, does that mean you're worried about oversight for somebody like Robert F. Kennedy Jr.? Like, if once he's confirmed, are you concerned that you won't have that?
I am concerned that there is a real look. It is a little bit weird, just a little bit weird, that the President of the United States is now head of the Kennedy Center. You know, my the only person in America think that's a little bit strange. You know, we have other people who know a little bit about culture, maybe even more than the President. But what is clearly happening in this country right now, every single day, with Musk, with President Trump, is more and more power going to fewer and fewer people, and often people who have huge amounts of money.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. They're not even focused on real issues. They're not even focused on the health of our children, which means the future is compromised. Now, speaking of that, the one thing you don't want to compromise is your retirement, which brings us to today's sponsor. Devori here with an urgent retirement warning. Trump's return is set to usher in a new golden age, where growing trade tensions and China's ruthless attack on the dollar have rattled the markets. That's why Warren Buffett just dumped $133 billion in stocks, and so too have Jeff Bezos, Larry Page, and even Jamie Dimon, CEO of the world's largest bank. That's why thousands of informed IRAs, 401k savers are now shielding their savings with gold. And the experts at Colonial Metals Group are the only folks I trust to help you do the exact same, especially now after Rich Dad Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki warned of a coming market crash. So visit freegoldguide.com/Devori or call 1-800-757-5158 and you'll get a free gold guide on how to bulletproof your wealth with gold tax free. Plus, see if you qualify for a free home safe and as much as $7,500 in free silver. Once again, that's freegoldguide.com/Devori or call 1-800-757-5158 right now. Now, let's move to Linda McMahon. She's at her confirmation hearing today, and she had a statement that went viral, and I want to react to it because, again, they're losing it over the Department of Education getting dismantled or really reformed. Here's what she said.
The bottom line is because it's not working. Department of Education was set up in 1980, and since that time we have spent almost $1 trillion, and we have watched our performance scores continue to go down. I do believe that it is a responsibility to make sure that our children do have equal access to excellent education. I think that that is best handled at the state level, closest to the states, working with state administrators, teachers, parents, who should have input into their curriculum.
But you already know Democrats don't agree with that because they'd love to keep spending money that we really don't have on programs that really don't work, all in the name of democracy, right? Because that's what they'll say is by dismantling the Department of Education, President Trump is dismantling democracy. Now, here's an example of how deranged they are in regards to this debate. Watch this.
President Trump and Elon Musk want to cut public education for our children and our neighborhood schools to finance a $5 trillion tax giveaway to billionaires. and wealthy corporations. By eliminating the Department of Education, Republicans are sending a clear message that they don't care about our children reaching their full potential. The American people did not vote for their neighborhood schools to be closed or class sizes to be larger. They did not vote to cut special education. The Republican war on students won't lower the cost of eggs or groceries, but it will raise property taxes as the costs of Trump's education cuts will be forced onto parents and homeowners. House Democrats believe that education is the key to unlocking the American dream. Our focus is on securing the resources needed to improve public education outcome, raising test scores, and lowering dropout rates. If House Republicans won't stand up for our kids and end their war on students, then they should not ask for our votes to pass government funding bill.
All right, well, I just believe he's flat out wrong, and here's why. Number one, it wasn't President Trump that labeled parents of these same children domestic terrorists when they questioned not only vaccines, but the curriculum at these school board meetings. That happened under President Biden, particularly his weaponized Department of Justice. Number two, the same administration clearly wanted to vaccine these children when they didn't need to and shut down schools during that time that hindered their development. And number three, how much more money are we going to spend on something that hasn't worked? If you keep doing the same thing and it doesn't work, isn't that called insanity? That's where we're at this point. And maybe we just need to think outside the box and do something different. Or just maybe we should trust parents more than the government when it comes to educating and developing their children. I don't know if that's a bad idea, but I think it's better than what we've been doing.
Department of Education's a big con job. We're ranked, so they rank the top 40 countries in the world. We're ranked number 40th, but we're ranked number one in one department, costs per pupil. So we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world, but we're ranked number 40. We've been between 38 and 40. The last time I looked, it was 38, and then I looked 2 days ago, it came out the new list. It came out at number 40, so we're ranked 40. Norway, Denmark, Sweden, I hate to say it, China, as big as it is, it's ranked in the top 5, and that's a primary competitor. We're ranked number 40. So if we're ranked number 40, that means something's really wrong, right? And I say send it back to Iowa, to Idaho, to Colorado. Send it back to places that, and there are a lot of Indiana. You have a great new governor. You have a great senator that Jim Banks just got elected. You got great people. I'll tell you what, Indiana is going to be fantastic. We probably have 35, maybe 37 states that will do as well as Denmark, Norway, Finland, Sweden. They'll be just as good. Then you have the ones that we all know about. It'll be the same story. But you know what? Even they will be good. Because you look at New York, you give it to Westchester County, you give it to Long Island, you give it to Nassau County, you give it to Suffolk County. Same thing you go out to, and you give it to upstate New York. So you'd have 4 or 5 sections.
Now, here are the receipts to what President Trump was saying, because we know the media will fact check him and say that he's lying, and they won't focus on the actual issue. So let's actually talk about it. Currently, right now, the United States spends an average of $20,000 per pupil, which is the third highest amount among the 40 other developed nations. And the other interesting stat is at 5.59%, the United States spends a larger percentage of its GDP on education than several other North American and European nations, which average 4.61. And then when you factor in this, 10 countries with the best world education ranked, clearly America is not even in the top 10. However, we have the highest tuition fees, as we've already showed you. We're the third highest as far as what it costs. But we're not getting the return on investment. Now, why is that? I don't know. Maybe a term called bureaucracy. Maybe the Department of Education is really not getting it done, and it should get reformed. So the numbers don't lie. There's no way to defend them, especially when it comes to how much we are funding the Department of Education with our tax dollars. However, Sonny Halston has an interesting take on why Trump wants to dismantle the Department of Education.
It's not really about saving money.
No.
I think there's a much more nefarious reason for it. I think it's because without education, you get cheaper labor. I think what they want to do is create in the United States a permanent underclass, a permanent cheap workforce, because educated workers cost more. That is the bottom line, and that's what they're doing.
Who's going to tell her? Because that's already happening now. The education system clearly is programming our children to be employees, not business owners, not entrepreneurs. They don't teach them financial literacy. They don't teach them mindset. They don't teach them health. I mean, they're going out into this world unprepared, in my opinion, and they waste their time on classes that have nothing to do with their development or helping them get to where they want to go in life. Now, here's what Bernie Sanders had to say about dismantling the Department of Education.
Has the president abolished the Department of Education?
You know, what is going on in this country, not only with education, but with other institutions, is the president is operating in a very authoritarian, illegal, and unconstitutional way. If they want changes in the Department of Education, they want to abolish the Department of Education, fine, come to Congress. That is the process. That is what our Constitution is about. You know, we have three separate branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. We are not and cannot and must not move to all power in one branch.
So Democrats and Bernie Sanders, they contradict themselves because they keep speaking as if President Trump has literally canceled these agencies and these departments. He's thrown them in the trash. They don't exist on paper. He's fired 100% of them. That hasn't happened. What he is doing is restructuring the leadership. He's obviously diverting funds. He's identifying waste. He's auditing. And so he hasn't technically on paper dismantled these agencies because he can't. Obviously, like Bernie Sanders said, Congress will have to do that. So they're spinning their wheels trying to even find the right message around this. And it's not going to work for the American people because they're fed up with all this fraud, waste, and abuse. Now, here is Linda McMahon also talking about how politics should not be involved in our education system.
We can do better. We can do better for the elementary and junior high school student by teaching basic reading and mathematics. For the college freshman facing censorship or anti-Semitism on campus. And for parents and grandparents who worry that their children and grandchildren are no longer taught American values and true history. In many cases, our wounds are caused by the excessive consolidation of power in our federal education establishment. So what's the remedy? Fund education freedom, not government-run systems. Listen to parents, not politicians. Build up careers, not college debt. Empower states, not special interests. Invest in teachers, not Washington bureaucrats. If confirmed as secretary, I will work with Congress to reorient the department toward helping educators, not controlling them. My experience as a business owner and leader of the Small Business Administration, as a public servant in the state of Connecticut, and more than a decade of service as a college trustee has taught me to put parents, teachers, and students, not bureaucracy, first. Outstanding teachers are tired of political ideology in their curriculum and red tape on their desks.
Now, we have a couple more stories that are follow-ups. Okay, here is the comptroller from New York responding to the $80 million that was clawed back because we know, one, President Biden lied to us about the funds that were sent from FEMA to migrants, and two, that those funds were identified recently and the individuals were fired for sending it even after President Trump issued executive orders not to do so. So here is what the comptroller had to say as a response.
This is highway robbery. This is the federal government having already allocated, authorized, awarded, invoiced, and paid $80.5 million to the city of New York. And then Elon Musk, with no legal authority, seizing it back.
No, the highway robbery was the $59 million sent to house migrants in luxury hotels. But that same amount of money was not used for veterans or our own American citizens who are homeless or other programs that could clearly benefit America. I don't know. What about the individuals in North Carolina? Where was the money for them? So again, they're out of touch when they try to argue this. And here's the second follow-up from Letitia James, who was hit with that lawsuit from Pam Bondi yesterday. Because we know that they were tipping off illegal migrants.
Letitia James responded to the lawsuit, Trey, saying, quote, our state laws, including the green light law, protect the rights of all New Yorkers and keep our communities safe. I'm prepared to defend our laws just as I always have. That's the New York AG. Meanwhile, this is more from Pam Bondi yesterday. Trey, listen.
We have one angel mom is too many. And we have angel moms throughout this country who should not be going through this. Comply with the law, and if you don't comply with federal law, we will hold you accountable. We did it to Illinois. Strike one. Strike two is New York. And if you are a state not complying with federal law, you're next. Get ready.
Well, we know Letitia James isn't about defending laws because she allowed individuals to be burned on the subway, raped on a subway. She definitely supported the prosecution of a former Marine when he was trying to defend people from a violent individual on the subway, not to mention the overcrowding of these migrant facilities, and not to mention the TDA gang members that she never did anything about. It took Tom Homan to actually deport these individuals. So again, zero credibility here. I don't even live in New York City, and I know that is a fact. A lot of New Yorkers are not happy with her. Okay, so this leads us to the question of today's video. What is your party message to Mitch McConnell? Because this has to be the end for him. Right, he's going out on a wheelchair with a boot around his foot. He voted no on all of Trump's nominees as the only Republican to do so. He's really by himself at this point. Share your message to Mitch McConnell in the comment section below. Okay, so breaking news from last night, Pam Bondi has sued the state of New York, the governor, and the Attorney General Letitia James. Now, clearly, Letitia James, she's been losing recently after trying to aggressively prosecute President Trump, his family members, and business associates. So if you guys want to check out that video, more stories from yesterday, all you have to do is click on that video because it's coming up right now.